The rugged peaks of the Balkans have witnessed the rise and fall of countless empires, yet few stories resonate with the sheer defiance and strategic brilliance of Gjergj Kastrioti, better known to history as Skanderbeg, the man who became a living nightmare for the Ottoman sultans. To understand the magnitude of his rebellion, one must first envision the Ottoman Empire at its absolute zenith during the 15th century, a period when its shadow stretched across 3 continents and its janissary corps was considered the most formidable fighting force on the planet. Born into the noble Kastrioti family in Albania, young Gjergj was taken as a hostage to the court of Sultan Murad II, a common practice of the time designed to ensure the loyalty of conquered territories while molding the next generation of elite military leaders. It was within the halls of Edirne that the boy was converted to Islam and renamed Skanderbeg, or Lord Alexander, a nod to the legendary Alexander the Great. And it was here that he mastered the very tactics, logistics, and psychological warfare that he would eventually use to dismantle Ottoman authority in his homeland. For decades, Skanderbeg served the Sultan with distinction, rising through the ranks to become a Sanjak Bey. Yet historical accounts and later biographies suggest that his heart remained tethered to the Christian faith of his father and the independence of the Albanian people. The turning point arrived in 1443 during the Battle of Niš, where amidst the chaos of a crusader victory led by John Hunyadi, Skanderbeg saw his opportunity to desert the Ottoman ranks along with 300 loyal Albanian riders. Through a daring ruse involving a forged letter from the Sultan, he seized the fortress of Krujë, raised the red flag with the black double-headed eagle, and reclaimed his ancestral identity in a move that stunned the High Porte. What followed was not merely a local insurrection, but a 25-year saga of asymmetrical warfare that defied all conventional military logic of the era. Skanderbeg's genius lay in his profound understanding of the terrain. He transformed the narrow mountain passes and dense forests of Albania into a series of lethal traps where the massive Ottoman armies, often numbering in the tens of thousands, found their numerical superiority neutralized by the speed and ferocity of his elite cavalry. He was a master of the hit and run long before it was formalized doctrine, frequently striking Ottoman supply lines and then vanishing into the mists of the Dinaric Alps before the enemy could regroup. In 1444, he successfully unified the disparate and often feuding Albanian chieftains under the League of Lej, a feat of diplomacy that provided the political foundation for his long-term resistance. The Sultan, enraged by this betrayal from a man he had raised as his own, dispatched wave after wave of his best generals, only to see them return in disgrace or perish on the Albanian frontier. At the first Siege of Krujë in 1450, Murad II himself led an army of over 100,000 men against a garrison of barely a few thousand, yet Skanderbeg's external harassment and the fortress's stubborn defense forced a humiliating Ottoman retreat. Even after the fall of Constantinople in 1453, which sent shockwaves of terror through Europe, Skanderbeg stood as the athlete of Christendom, a title bestowed upon him by the papacy for serving as the final bulwark against the westward expansion of Islam. Scholars often debate how a small, resource-poor nation held out for so long against the wealthiest empire of the age, and the answer typically lies in Skanderbeg's personal charisma and his innovative use of intelligence networks that kept him one step ahead of every Turkish movement. Despite constantly being outnumbered, sometimes by ratios of 10-1, he won victory after victory at places like Albulena and Torviol, using psychological maneuvers to make the Ottomans believe his forces were much larger than they actually were. His death in 1468 from malaria, rather than on the battlefield, marked the beginning of the end for Albanian independence. Yet his legacy was so potent that legend says Ottoman soldiers later dug up his bones to use as amulets, believing his courage would rub off on them. He remains a singular figure in military history, a man who navigated the complex shifts of the Renaissance and the brutal realities of the Ottoman expansion with the grace of a statesman and the iron will of a warrior. His life reminds us that a single, determined leader, armed with local knowledge and unwavering resolve, can indeed change the course of history and humble even the mightiest of giants. And that's something worth remembering when you next consider the power of the underdog against seemingly impossible odds.